Turok was a strange game series. I'd be surprised if many people watching have never heard of at least Turok Dinosaur Hunter, being a classic early days title on the N64, arguably helping pave the way for first-person shooters on consoles. Yet at the same time, despite a decent run of games from 1997 to 2002, aside from a brief splurge of life in 2008, the franchise seemed to drop off the face of the earth without much fanfare. As someone who played Turok Evolution way back on whatever birthday it was when I got my shiny new PS2, and even before that playing Dinosaur Hunter on the N64 at my mate Danny's house, I never owned a Nintendo myself, I have to wonder, what exactly happened to this franchise? Did the then popularity of these Nintendo shooters arise from groundbreaking gameplay and innovative design, or just a lucky confluence of right time, right platform, right before the release of arguably more influential first-person shooters? But with the re-release of the original two games on Steam, as well as a Switch port of all things this year, access to the series is greater than it has been for years, as well as potential scrutiny, with the series passing under the spotlight for the first time in over 2 decades. By the way, can I just point out that I started working on this video before those Switch ports got announced, and the fact that this video is coming out now is purely coincidence, not brought on by any unscrupulous attempt to try and gain views talking about something relevant at the time, but purely by the fact that Stephen will always look for any excuse to talk about dinosaurs, and I already did Jurassic Park and Dino Crisis. What did this series do right? What did it do wrong? What went on behind the scenes? And most importantly, what the fuck is even going on? Whether you're a long-time fan or hearing about these games for the first time, join me as we take a look at the gameplay, story, and history of Turok. So, the story of Turok starts a little bit before the launch of the N64, by which I mean 1954, with the publication of Dell Comics 4-Color Comics issue number 596, Turok, Son of Stone, by Gaylord Dubois. Boy. The one-shot story emerged from an unpublished edition in the then ongoing Young Hawk series, itself a regular spin-off story within the Lone Ranger comics, also published by Dell. Yes, that Lone Ranger, but presumably less terrible. Originally titled Young Hawk Conquers the Terrible Ones, it never reached the comic pages at the time, but a year later, and following a branding change, it was published as Turok, following the adventures of the titular Mandan warrior through a hidden dinosaur valley in New Mexico alongside his plucky young sidekick Andar. Because there always had to be a plucky young sidekick in stories at this time. That annoying tag-along that just gets in the way and you probably want to see die every issue. You know, someone for little Timmy to identify with. Can I just say that I love old-timey paleo art? It's so inaccurate, but there's something about the expressions. They're not menacing, they always just look confused, startled, or doing a concern. The series actually ran right up to the 80s, ending with issue 130. Wow, 130 issues in 28 years. That's 4.64 issues a year. Only marginally less output than my own content. 5 episodes in 1 year, fuck! 1992 saw a reboot of Turok by Valiant Comics, with the inclusion of many of the more science fiction elements now synonymous with the title, blending the high-tech with the prehistoric, and changing the Lost Land setting from a hidden valley to the interdimensional, timey-wimey weirdness we now know in the games. And with the acquisition of Valiant Comics by Acclaim Entertainment in 1994, the doors to video game adaptation were now thrown open. Around this time, Acclaim had acquired the development studio Iguana, known up until this point for NFL and NBL games, as well as titles like Aero the Acrobat, Zero the Kamikaze Squirrel. Yeah, don't ask, I'm presenting and I don't even know what the fuck's going on right now. With the N64 in development and Nintendo already expressing interest in Iguana developing an exclusive for the platform, a box of Valiant Comics were supposedly dumped on the desk of the Iguana office in Austin, Texas, with the team told to find potential material for adaptation. According to then creative director Nigel Cook, among the IPs they had to sift through, it was Turok, which immediately stood out. And in March 1997, 6 months after the launch of the Nintendo 64, Turok Dinosaur Hunter was released. The game opens with the simple instruction to locate the hub ruins, as well as some keys which will allow us to access other levels. With that, we're dropped in and left to our own— Monkey! Come back here, you little— Aw, Typical of most shooters at this point, any story is relegated to either the back of the box or the instruction manual. Now admittedly this makes my job, especially with structuring these run-throughs, a little difficult, being quite a story and narrative focused guy. I want to share plot and lore and explain the universe, as much as just give an abridged walkthrough. However, despite lacking the enclosed instruction book, I found a PDF, so let's use that. We play as Turok. Though, as we'll find out in future games, Turok is more of a title than a name, so actually never mind that first thing I say, and it's a sodding lie. We play as Tal'Set, the time-travelling Native American warrior who has found himself in the Lost Land, fighting against the forces of some bloke called the Campaigner, who seeks the scattered pieces of an ancient weapon of such immeasurable power that it is only available outside the final battle via cheats. The first area as we look for the hub ruins is actually pretty huge, and this will be standard across the entire game. There's a fantastic feeling of adventure as you navigate this world, helped by the nature of the N64, which, by using cartridges, they create a game with seamless level transitions across even these sprawling maps, with none of the loading screens of disc-loaded games. God damn it, PS1, what are you playing at? Despite the scale though, it's easy enough to navigate these levels by following the trail of enemies and these collectible Mario-style coins known as Life Force Diamonds, which grant an additional life each time you reach 100. Yes, Turok. Yes, you are. Well, actually, you're Tal'Set, the current Turok, but fuck it. And as mentioned, you'll be picking up level keys hidden around the maps.
A fucking key!
Of which completed sets are required to access additional levels from the hub, which, once we get to it at the end of the starting area, acts as this game's, well, hub. Having found all the keys in this area,
Another fucking key!
we have the choice of level 2 or 3, which will in turn have the keys for future levels scattered among them. Honestly, it's an interesting approach, avoiding total linearity, with the player being able to return to previous areas to hunt down missing keys or collectibles, again giving that feeling of scale and adventure to your quest and this world. Now, if you're Turoking right, you should be exploring every nook and cranny of the map for hidden passageways, portals to secret areas, and other secrets littered across each level. My favourites have to be the secret ledges over the side of cliffs. Always feels so good when I find one of those. You sneaky level designer bastards. On this note, I have to praise the map system added to this re-release. Firstly, it's bloody well implemented and ideal for this type of game, overlaying the screen while you can still move around and shoot. But secondly, it's bloody needed for some of these mazes. Like, salute to you guys back in the day who played this on Nintendo without the map, seriously. And don't even get me started on Turok 2, fuck me. The devs specifically described their approach to maps as more natural and organic to fit with the natural jungle locale, with backtracking, open areas, alternate routes, and I really like it. Unfortunately, the first few levels are just too aesthetically similar, bar maybe a colour swap of the fog. Level 3's Ancient City does add some more ruinous areas, as does level 4, but thankfully things do start to evolve in the second half of the game. But first, before we get to that, let's talk about combat. I don't think I'm supposed to be seeing those right now. In the first area alone, we're introduced to most of the game's standard enemies. Machete army guy, shirtless axe dude, him, as well as the first of the actual dinosaurs in this dinosaur hunting game.
Now eventually you do plan to have dinosaurs on your dinosaur tour, right?
Yeah, weirdly enough, there's slim paleontological pickings in Dinosaur Hunter. By the end, we'll have seen 3 dinosaur types, plus one synapsid, compared to a fuckton of generic army and or Viking dudes, and some other weirdos. But for now, I'll just say the enemy variety across the game is actually really good, if a little unfocused, but more on that later. Well, you're just creepy. Don't follow me. Oh. Wait, is that a goddamn alien? You're all coming alive Blink style when I turn around, aren't you? Yep! Now, one thing that might annoy people is a really high enemy respawn rate. Kill a bloke dead, and before you know it, him and all his buddies are back again in what feels like a few seconds. I'm sure it must be longer than that, and not all enemies respawn, but it's enough where you'll always have someone trying to kill you. Not great when you're in an area trying to figure out a puzzle or perform some awkward platforming, but hey, nothing a bullet or two can't solve, at least for a few moments. And ultimately, that's the key to combat in this game. This is a total run and gunner, where enemies are plentiful, typically quick to put down, and drop health and ammo in the process. This needs to be played like Doom or Serious Sam, with constant movement, strafing and fire. At the end of the third level, we're treated to our first boss fight as we're teleported into a stone arena where we meet the Long Hunter, who can summon fucking Humvees apparently. Yeah, there's like lore and backstory to this guy from the comics, but yeah, here his entire character is... and... pretty standard boss fight otherwise. Okay, now, calm down. Level 4, as I said, is mostly more of the same. Couple new enemy types with Meganura and Waddle Boys? Ah shit, I already used that for Innostrand Sevia in the Dino Crisis video. Spiky Waddle Boy? Even though its back shouldn't be spiky, it's supposed to have a sail-like membrane over the spine, possibly used in heat regulation and/or courtship or territorial displays. Boy. After this, we move on to the Labyrinthian Catacombs, and a welcome aesthetic change-up. Gotta say, between the 90s graphics, square blocky halls, and stone textures, I get major original Tomb Raider vibes here. Very Peruvian ruins. And not just cause the dinosaurs. This could be the first level you're liable to get really lost on, but nothing that'll turn it from challenging to stressful, hopefully. There's plenty pitfalls and sneaky stuff here, and it's easy to miss keys and other critical items, but I honestly enjoyed this level a lot. Again, with the map. We finished level 5 with a big bug boss fight, but by now we've accumulated quite an arsenal, including a Gatling gun and a grenade launcher, so no trouble here. Oh, shut it, Tal. We move on to the Treetop Village, which had me worried at first that we were going back to generic jungle, but after a lot of jumping down cliffs, thank fuck for no fall damage by the way, we come to holy shit, those really are aliens, aren't they? Oh no, better warn Sam.
Turok actually makes sense as a next retrospective, considering if we go near anything with an alien in, people do the, you forgot this shit, but dinosaurs don't let us down.
Joke's on you. Turok 1 has aliens in it. Anyway, after taking an elevator, we reach the Ewok village, which takes up the rest of the level. Bit of a maze and a few dickish traps here and there, but it's a great look, complete with cloud layers and the occasional lightning effect. The last of the regular levels, simply called the Lost Land, hits us with a strikingly different look to everything so far, with an orange-tinted arid wasteland, but that's the least of it. The generic green-vested dudes we've been slaughtering till now give way to these new assholes, and the aliens we've had a sampling of in earlier levels show up in force. We get a Triceratank mini-boss, some Audrey 2s, and a Graboid ambush, right before laying eyes on some gigantic fortification. And now shit gets crazy. While fighting through waves of bug troopers, cybernetically implanted Dinosaurs, and fucking mechs, all this on top of the still present magic guys and literal demons. Literal fucking demons! This is where that lack of focus in enemy designs really hits. Don't get me wrong, I love it, but as we reach the end of the game, it starts to feel a bit like a Garry's Mod server with a few too many NPC add-ons at once. If you haven't found them before this point, a ton of new powerful weapons are basically handed out to you one after the other as you progress to the giant fortress of evil and spikes and railingless walkways and did you know we're evil? And having found all the keys on this level,
Shove it up me arse!
we're good to leave. Wait, what is... Chronoceptor piece? I'm sure it's not important. To access the final level in the center of the hub, we need a key fragment from each level before now. Having done this, we're good to go, but we're missing something. Sure, we're totally free to go face the final boss now, but remember that one story point this game had? You know, the MacGuffin? As well as the mandatory keys, every level has a hidden piece of the game's most powerful weapon, the Chronoceptor. Though optional, if for no other reason than what we'll soon see in the coming battle, I'd recommend finding them all. But more than that, the whole treasure hunt side quest further fuels that sense of adventure this game has. That said, hiding it behind the exit portal of a level, forcing players to go through the entire map from start to finish just to pick it up if they miss it first time, was kind of a dick move. Ready for the final confrontation, we head into the maze that is level 8, and it's a biggin' for sure. With networks of hallways, elevators, tunnels, and... I don't know, pipes? I felt like I needed another word in there to describe the People tubes! Anyway, can I just point out here how good the soundtrack is for this game as a whole, with this level especially coming to mind. The composer, Darren Mitchell, he done good. Fortunately, this level is actually split into 3 distinct sections, differentiated by lighting, textures, and a general colour scheme, which helps to direct the player in the right direction, assuring them of their progress. The first area is distinctly red and dusty as we fight mechs and General Grievous's bodyguards through these industrial and volcanic caverns. This gives way to a sickly green power plant with sewage pipes and goddamn crabs, before eventually leading to a sleek and shiny area with ventilation shafts and anti-grav tubes. Reaching the top of one elevator, we suddenly come across some ritualistic row of skulls and hanging corpses of the generic human enemies from the early game. Now, if you'll forgive my own story crafting here, I had a thought upon first seeing this. Now, I know that sources just call these guys campaigner soldiers, and all the bad guys in this game are assumed to be on the same team here, but I wondered if that perhaps the humans are all working for the Humvee guy, and that since killing him, their fractured force has been increasingly supplanted by an even more deadly one, led by the campaigner. Hence that jarring change of enemy type halfway through the game to mechs, aliens, and literal fucking demons. I like the idea of 2 enemy rival factions, and by weakening one, we unintentionally allowed one much worse to take over. I am, however, completely pulling this out of my arse, and don't look at Mecha Jumpy Boy. So, here we get a pre-boss fight against the campaigner's pet T-Rex called Thunder, and saying that aloud, it just makes me realise how adorable that actually sounds. Like, Thunder's what you call your old family boofer or something. Love it. Either way, it's a fun battle. Personally, after using up my fusion cannon rounds to deal initial damage, I found the minigun and grenade launcher to be most useful here, with a lot of other weapons either not registering at all, or simply not doing enough damage. But it's a good fight, and probably my favourite of the game, actually. You didn't even use the knife! We are awarded with the final piece of the Chronoceptor, which, assuming you'd found all the other parts before now, gives us the weapon itself. Proceeding down the tunnel of guns into the lobby of hanging bald blokes, and it's time to face... Shao Kahn? Okay, so the ultimate bad guy threat of the universe is just one of the generic bald blokes from earlier in a Skeletor mask. All he has is a bloody mace and shield! How did this guy get an army of mech-wielding aliens on side? I guess he could jump pretty high. That's probably enough for some people. Hoping to shove your Chronoceptor into his focusing array, the campaigner would magnify the weapon's power to break down the barriers between the Lost Land and other universes. My understanding is the Lost Land is kinda like Half-Life's Zen, a border world or dimension, to which other realities intersect and flow. Kinda like the sewer of the multiverse. In fact, that's exactly how the Turok wiki puts it. It kind of explains the hodgepodge of enemy types, technologies, and creatures, past and present, terrestrial and otherwise, all making their way to this world. Either way, governing the entire multiverse is probably too much of a step up for someone with minimal management experience such as him, so with 3 out of 3 shots of the Chronoceptor, we put him down. And that is why you collect it. Oh, and I guess he was a robot too. There's that. And that was Turok Dinosaur Hunter. Right away, I had a lot of fun with this. Critically praised on release, particularly for its 3D graphics, environmental design, as well as its satisfying violence, weapons, and all-around great fun feel, and yeah, it's hard to dispute. I admit that for these videos, I sometimes gotta sit and force myself to slog through a game. But for this, not a problem. Once I got going, it easily turned into my whole day. I just got into a flow, and I didn't feel like stopping. Now, Acclaim did release a Game Boy version, sort of, developed by a Spanish company called Bit Managers in late 1997. Though titled Turok Battle of the Dinosaurs, it followed the same plot, around the campaigner and the collecting of Chronoceptor pieces, only as a 2D platformer. Kinda ironic that the one Game Boy game with a different title to its console counterpart would be the only one to actually follow its story, but getting ahead of myself. While Dinosaur Hunter was hit with almost half a year of delays, with Nintendo refusing to accept the game until some bugs had been fixed. Wow, what a novel idea. It's almost like good fucking business practice or something. Positive buzz and advance orders led Acclaim to announce a sequel before the first had even been released. By the time Dinosaur Hunter dropped on what Acclaim dubbed Turok Tuesday, the first small step in an increasingly unhinged marketing machine from the company, more on that later, development for the sequel was already underway. While it would never hit the late 1997 release thrown out by Acclaim originally, on December 10th, 1998, Turok 2 was released. Setting itself immediately apart from the last game, Seeds of Evil opens with a cutscene providing us some much needed context. Floating in a cosmic void, we, as the new Turok, are introduced to this weirdo lady called Adon, to who the Elders of the Lost Land, known as the Lazarus Concordant, have charged with the task of guiding us on our quest to stop the Primagen.
The Elders of the Lost Land, known as the Lazarus Concordance, have charged me with the task of guiding you on your quest to stop the Primagen.
Yeah, I just said that. Adon explains that a being known as the Primagen plans to break free from imprisonment aboard his ship, apparently trapped at the centre of the Lost Land, by directing minions to destroy 5 energy totems currently preventing his escape. Also, the universe will implode or something, whatever. I will discuss what the Primagen actually is later, because while barely explored in the game itself, there's some significant lore there. We're then briefed on what to expect from the first level, with each world in Turok 2 being a lot more unique with more objective variety than the simple key collecting of the original. Then it's into the game itself, and right away with the music again. Darren Mitchell, you're awesome. Again, I'm playing the PC re-release, which, aside from graphical differences and the map, adds on-screen markers for quest objectives, which is a big help since we'll be dealing with tons of levers and switches and levers to open doors to get switches and blah. Now, while this first area might not be super Turok-y, it's a nice change of pace. Combat still has a great feel to it, and the violence is ramped up even more this time around, with dismemberment, great situational death animations, and blood that flows like something really viscous, I don't know. Speaking of these poor bastards, what are they? While most levels in Turok 2 have unique enemies, these guys are the most reoccurring, forming the bulk of the Primagen's forces. Called Dinozoids, they're described as genetically engineered dinosaur hybrids by Adon, but, and to nobody's surprise, Turok's lore is a bit of an uncodified mess, and we can also find them being described as simply the descendants of terrestrial dinosaurs, resulting from a millennia of undisturbed evolution in the Lost Land. Since we know the Lost Land is a bit of a dimensional dumping ground, I guess some dinos fell through a wormhole or two and avoided the KT extinction event. I personally prefer this explanation since it doesn't require someone making them in a lab, and plus it fits the future games better. Either way, in the game, there's 2 types, the entrails, your typical grunts, and raptoids, who seem a bit less developed, acting more like guard dogs than infantry. Fighting our way through this maze of streets, we have to activate the beacons, and rescue capture children from the Dino Boys.
Child rescue.
Thank you,
What the fuck? Additionally, activating these warp portals around the map allow you to return to Adon for free health and ammo, as well as provide fast travel. Hey. I just came here for some ammo.
Peace, human.
Like, just a few pistol rounds will do?
Powers beyond the comprehension of flesh.
Adon?
Have you set in motion?
I want to speak to your manager. What the hell is going on?
You must take care when entering the warp portals. Whatever this new threat is, it seems that false portals have been erected to lure you into a trap.
So, just to make matters worse, while most of these warp portals are legit, 1 per level will take you to a shady warehouse where you'll be shanked by these assholes. Connected to something called Oblivion, amazingly, this entire plot has zero bearing on the main conflict. Either way, it's here we find parts for this game's answer to the Chronoceptor, the nuke. Well, at least there's no question about what it is. Once we complete all objectives, including defending the totem, we're transported to this game's hub where, like before, level portals require keys. Level 2 starts promising with some Styracosaur artillery. Yeah, run you little bastards! Should have evolved into cockatiels like the rest of them when you had the chance! But it gets pretty weird with zombie nightmare portals and boob ghost demons and insta-kill water. This level gave me Serious Sam vibes for some reason, just the general aesthetic and a couple of the puzzles. But then in the next breath you're in a stereotypical Halloween graveyard full of zombos. Like, pick a theme guys, come on. Also, spiders can fuck off. Damn spiders. Now this game has another objective, where each level will have a hidden sacred feather which must be brought to a warp portal, at least one which doesn't try to kill you, granting you a talisman from a force ghost, which provides some map-specific ability like walk on lava, jump long distances, and these will be needed to get the final level keys. On level 3 we're reintroduced to an enemy from the first game, the gorilla-like reptilian Purlins. Not the last time we'll see these boys in the series. Compared to the last two levels, this one's actually pretty simple. I've not talked too much about the maps so far in Seeds of Evil because honestly, I don't have much to say. They're still massive and sprawling and even more than before act as total mazes, though is it just me or are the secret areas in this one kinda lazy? Meh. It's the second half of the game though where maps start to get out of control. With the Lair of the Blind Ones, we're introduced to more unique enemies, these Cyclopsian mole men invading the surface world from their underground caverns, and it's our job to blow up some thermal vents to seal them underground. Unfortunately, this is also the worst level in the game. My opinion of course, and I've seen people defend it online, but I'm far from the only one who found this a fucking nightmare. The campaigner's fortress in the first game was nothing compared to the tunnels leading to portals, leading back to the start of tunnels, leading to spiders! Fucking spiders! Big spiders, holy shit! Based on my recordings, I spent at least 2 hours going around this rocky maze trying to find the bastard thermal vents. Thing is, if you miss one by taking a wrong turn and carry on for another 40 minutes of spelunking, you won't realise till you show up at the exit portal, objective incomplete. And there's no easy way of figuring out where you missed it without retracing your steps or going right the way back to the start. In the end, for the sake of time and sanity, I used NoClip, even that not a fix, just as a way of speedily getting from one cave network to another as I searched for the missing objective. Yeah, not a fan of this level. On a more positive note, along with flamethrowers, chain guns and plasma rifles, we now have one of the most entertaining weapons ever made, with the cerebral bore. A homing drill that bores into an enemy's skull, killing them in a long, slow, brutally agonizing fashion. Nice. Assuming we ever escape, we get the first boss fight of the game against Hermes Mora, but with a flamethrower to deal with the worms and plenty of heavy weapons to deal with the things, it's easy enough. Gross. The next level, though not quite as bad as the Lair of the Blind Ones, is another labyrinth. The Hive of the Mantids brings us something far more sci-fi and alien-esque as we're sent to deal with yet another faction working for the Primagen, the Mantids, which, though unconfirmed, I'm rolling with the assumption are those aliens from the first game. It's a unique environment for these games, no doubt, but this is still Turok, right? I miss Thunder. While it's not an unenjoyable level, I did find myself really wishing for it to end after a while, searching every corner and unexplored tunnel for the last bloody queen I'm supposed to kill, and the enemies also seem far more aggressive and punishing here. Areas with indefensible open walkways just lead you to being immediately spammed with blaster fire from all directions. Just got a little bit tired of hearing Joshua's pain noises after a while, you know? Oh yeah, there's a point. We're not Tal'Set anymore, we're Joshua Fireseed, a descendant of Tal's and simply the current person to hold the mantle of Turok. He is called Josh though, so immediately not as cool as the OG. After another boss fight, which simply requires hitting the glowing bits, it's on to the final level aboard the Primagen's lightship. Stranded and buried at the core of the Lost Land itself, it's unsurprisingly another cunt of a maze, but especially compared to the last two, it's not so bad. Opening onto a bridge area with this level's Primagen key acting as a convenient landmark, this level sends you off into 4 circuits, always looping back to the centre again. This means if you find yourself back here having not encountered an objective in the area you've just gone through, then at least you know you've missed it and know where to go back and search. Though this level once again ends with a boss fight, it's not Primo himself, but some fat fuck working for the Oblivion guys. I love this fight for 2 reasons. The constant fucking noises Tubbo makes. And Joshua is complete having none of this expression. With that done, and since we're about to hit the endgame, now's the time to talk about what the Primagen is. You know, for context, while we kill him. According to some basic information from the game, it's said that after Dinosaur Hunter, Tal'Set tried to destroy the Chronoceptor by lobbing it into a volcano, and the energy released from its destruction awoke the Primagen from eons of sleep trapped within his derelict ship. Now, that's all well and good, but that kinda tells us fuck all. The Primagen's people existed in a previous reality, and as something of a scientist himself, he wanted to discover how the universe was created. In attempting to travel back in time to witness it firsthand, an action which, as it turns out, isn't possible, he instead accidentally undid reality while triggering a new Big Bang. Damaged, his ship became trapped in a timeless pocket dimension, but with enough time and enough random wormholes dragging debris, matter, and the occasional dinosaur through, the light ship acted as a gravitational body for an eventual world to form around, Galliana, colloquially known as the Lost Land. There's a certain tragedy to the Primagen's story. He wiped out his universe by accident and he just wants to escape and undo this mistake. It's just unfortunate that whatever he'd do would destroy us in the process. So, assuming we've collected all the talismans, we can go back and get all the Primagen keys on each level to face the big boy himself. Which I totally did. I didn't just cheat code unlock the last level to save time. Oh look, a boss fight. By now we know the routine, targeting vulnerable body parts through damage. The only thing to be aware of is he will constantly regenerate after a few seconds of being at no health, unless you shoot him in the head at this moment. If you found all the Oblivion gates, you'll have access to the nuke at this point, and it kinda sucks. I'm sure it's a hitbox issue with the blast not hitting the body part required for the boss, but whatever. After a few rounds of minions and some final shots to the face, he's down! There is another ending actually, which assuming you've defended all the energy totems in the game previously, which I did, and assuming you didn't cheat to hurry up and get to the final boss fight, which I... never mind. Interestingly, in the comics this resolves entirely differently. While still very much the antagonist, he's less malicious, not seeking the destruction of our universe out of evil intent, but simply as a regrettable sacrifice to bring his own reality back. Rather than just kill the guy, Joshua convinced him that the odds of recreating his own universe by repeating the same accident as before is basically non-existent, and offers instead to... okay, this sounds weird out of context. Get in me fucking magic bag! Okay, so Turok has a satchel called the Light Burden that apparently contains a fragment of the Big Bang science, so technically is a remnant of the previous universe, which Primo was able to get back to? Not sure. Either way, it's a very Doctor Who resolution, and I kinda like it. Doesn't require guns. With the universe saved, we get a final word from Adon, which, depending on whether you got the good ending or not, will either congratulate us on vanquishing the Primagen forever, or just temporarily stalling him while his mind still goes, because no one's ever really gone, I don't know.
I have been unable to identify the force which conspired against you during your battle with the Primagen. Each time I scanned this entity's signature, I also detected the energies of the Turok lineage as well. Whatever it is, your ancestors have dealt with it before.
Hold on. Did this entire game just exist to set up a sequel? With those Oblivion assholes being the real threat the whole time? You might say that the seeds of evil were being planted this whole time. You cheeky bastards. Turok 2 is... it's good. To be honest, I didn't enjoy it as much as the original, but I can understand how for many it's an improvement in just too many areas, with graphical and technological upgrades, greater level variety, a story that exists, additional interesting weapons, but for me anyway, I also found the maps kind of, at best, dull in their layout, and at worst, frustrating as all hell. While overall the game just had a bit less charm. Maybe just me. Even so, it's a lot of fun, and with critics loving it at the time, it provided acclaim with an all-important second successful hit. There was another addition with multiplayer bringing split-screen competitive modes with quite a lot to offer, with skins ranging from Joshua, Adon, the Campaigner and Tal'Set, through most of the standard enemies in the game, and, of course,
Gant the Cold One!
all across a decent selection of modes, including effectively a horde mode called Raptor Fest, which I think you could probably figure out for yourselves. As with Dinosaur Hunter, Turok 2 received a Game Boy release to complement the main game. Once again developed by Bit Managers, who would provide most of the Game Boy offerings to come. Not that you could tell this was by the exact same people. This one does, however, begin the strange tradition of the Game Boy releases having fuck all connection to the console games. The Resident Evil remakes are starting to lose me, I gotta be honest. While development was underway for the next major installment, the proven multiplayer of Turok 2 became of special interest to Acclaim and Iguana, which by 1999 would be renamed Acclaim Studios Austin, a little confusing, with other first-person shooters releasing multiplayer-only games like Unreal Tournament and Quake 3 Arena, abandoning the single-player games for a purely competitive mode. Funny how history repeats itself. Turok was given a similar treatment with Turok Rage Wars. While not canonical to any of the events so far, it basically pit characters from the series together purely for the funsies of killing each other. Funnily enough, I wasn't able to get a multiplayer match going on an emulator, but there is a campaign of sorts for each character, with progressively harder matches against AI broken up with boss fights. The AI is a little wonky, and assuming you can actually play with a controller, you're not going to find much challenge here. And I'm not surprised then to read reviews from the time questioning the value for money of a game like this. And I certainly felt that way while playing. Worth mentioning for historicity's sake, Rage Wars did add some new and unique characters, as well as indisputably the most badass interpretation of Tal'Set I've ever seen. Looks like the cross between Advent Troopers and some Morrowind shit. And as is becoming tradition, we also get a Game Boy tie-in. So, here we have for Game Boy, Turok Rage Wars. Our story may be different, but our start screen is always the fucking same. Funnily enough, this one's actually not bad. I actually might have played this more than the N64 game. Fighting mostly dinosaurs, but with the occasional "What the fuck is that?" It's like the rhinoceros if he was a failed FEV experiment. Not much to say, but it's okay. With development of a true third installment having continued in the background, by 2002 we finally got Turok 3, otherwise known as Turok Evolution. What do you mean I missed one? Okay, so I'm a moron. While I've had to fill in a lot of gaps in my Turok knowledge for this video, I thought I at least knew the gist. Turok 1 and 2, though this was my first time completing them, I played years ago, and I've had physical copies for the next two games forever. But, absolute truth, this is my first time even hearing about Turok 3 Shadows of Oblivion. I don't even know why. I'm not aware of any effort to bury this game's existence. It came out on the N64 just like the previous two, though with a 2000 release at the tail end of its life cycle. But I guess a simple lack of exposure compared to the original two, with re-releases and re-releases, simply left this one off to the side, out of both memory and time. That said, if they'd called the next one Turok 4, that'd have been a good hint. Being my first time playing, I have no expectations. Everything is new to me, from first time seeing the box art, to first time seeing, hold the fuck up, did they make Turok a girl? What is this? This should be a nonsense. There'll be no woman in my Turok game. That I didn't know existed until 5 minutes ago. The game starts with a cutscene. A pretty lengthy cutscene actually, which immediately demonstrates their attempt to be more cinematic and narrative driven. And what is that kid's face? After being blarded by some Oblivion spawn during a failed prison break, Joshua is shanked awake to his home in rural Oklahoma? Well, it's a different setting for a Turok game, I'll give it that. Swiggity smooty! Look at that surprisingly good facial animations for a game of this time. Actually pretty impressed when I saw this. Here we're introduced to Danielle Fireseed, Josh's sister, and the two talk about his bad dreams.
I wish you would talk to me, Josh. You've been such a help since Brian died.
Well, actually, it's more about her trying to open up about the recent tragic death of her husband than...
The child.
What?
The child. The child is the key, Danielle.
I don't understand, Josh.
The child. The child. The child.
Destroy the child.
As the last members of the Turok lineage, he claims, amid his breakdown, that the end of the Turok line means Oblivion. Anyway, when a couple of guys who are up to no good start making trouble in the neighbourhood...
You're too loud.
We get a hallway fight and a fall down some stairs, and then Joshua fucking dies! Straight slow motion murdered. Blarded by a thing during their getaway, they're suddenly saved by the T-800.
come with me.
If you want the references. So, Adon's back and sporting higher level gear as she brings us to the Council of Voices that she mentioned working for, and what the fuck are these? Why is that one ball gagged?
Silence!
Requiring there to be a new Turok, the council leave it to us to decide, giving us a surprise choice of protagonists between Danielle and I didn't even look at the other option. Who is this guy? He kinda just showed up. Pizza delivery guy?
Joshua?
Pizza time.
I will bear the burden of my fathers. I will wield the light.
Be warned, child. The burden is heavy. Once before, a woman tried to assume the mantle, and it consumed her.
I am not afraid.
It is done.
And now... well, this is different. Starting out in some future Robocop city, I guess this is just present day to our protagonists, Earth. I mean, if their world building is being consistent, the Primagen proved time travel impossible in this universe, and obviously it's supposed to be the US, complete with SWAT teams and police brutality. So among the differences between Danielle and Joseph, the other player option, is her ability to use a grappling hook, which is pretty awesome. She also has access to the game's heavier weapons, and in general is more of a tank, while the younger brother is more stealth and sniper focused, and... wait, according to the wiki, all three Fireseed siblings were born between 1977 and 1985. Daniel's 27 in this game, which sets this at the absolute latest in 2012, probably closer to the mid-2000s. Well, I can't say I remember fusion-powered police walkers back then, but honestly, who would? As we fight through mutant and zombie-infested streets to try to get to the tentacle portal of Oblivion, I'm left wondering if this was the story the Game Boy version of Turok 2 was adapting. It's a huge departure for the series so far. Setting, obviously, but tonally it's almost Half-Life in its horror.
Ah, a fellow scientist. This is my hiding spot, and I'm not moving until the situation is drastically improved. Now go away. I'm not so sure I want to go to the surface.
Moving from city streets to the subway station and onto a timed mission to prevent a train crash, we can see the end of the non-linear gameplay that defined the previous entries. Now that's not a complaint in itself, it does open the game to stronger storytelling, but that's a big sacrifice to make. Reaching the top of the building, we get the dumbest boss fight, then it's off to a military base where the Half-Life vibes really start to come in force, with an entire opening area that feels straight out of Surface Tension.
Why do we all have to wear these ridiculous...
There's some creepy areas here that really wouldn't feel out of place from Black Mesa, complete with alien fishworm things, and we end on a boss fight which is basically just a pitworm.
Adon, what is this all about? You haven't told us anything about what we're doing here, or why Josh was killed, or...
Yep, really speaking for the audience here.
2 years ago, Joshua was attacked by an entity that identified itself only as Oblivion. No other being like it has ever existed. A massive life form capable of devouring worlds, of rendering entire planets lifeless.
Through a Stargate, we finally arrive in the Lost Land. At least the absolute pits of it, with random debris, cars and buildings scattered around in what's apparently a particularly common place for stuff to fall through from other dimensions, making for an interesting location, but more importantly, one that actually starts to feel more like Turok. Well, mostly. Oh no, it's that guy! You know, the one from the Borderlandses.
What a great character that is, the geezer from the Borderlands.
So we fight some Darth Maliks, Raptors, big guys and other abominations. Oh no, it's the Chicken Man!
It's the Chicken Man!
We get a boss fight against a steampunk hermit crab where you've got to seal off pipes until he's forced into a central arena, and ends with you being unceremoniously dropped into an entirely new environment with no explanation. This next portion of the game, though, is easily my favourite. This level, at least its opening, is the exact same as the start of Dinosaur Hunter, right down to these bald motherfuckers.
What is it with this game shitting things out? You got shut out. Now they're getting shit out.
And after complaining about how much this didn't feel like Turok a few levels earlier, it's a surprise to be sure, but a welcome one.
This place. It's familiar to me. Like I've been here before.
I feel it too. The presence of our forefathers.
We get another boss fight against the baldest of the bald geezers.
You shall not pass.
What is he just running in circles?
For once, the objective is a little less straightforward. With every time he hits low health, he does something.
He's just constant everywhere.
Then he's back to full health. Took me a few rounds, but eventually realised you're supposed to get him to regenerate over this trapdoor and then drop his ass into a fire pit. Lovely. A lot of standard Turok fare follows here. Key finding, temple diving, and a run-in with the spicy boys from the last game, as well as another in this game's rapid-fire boss fights. With keys acquired from these sections, we pass over a bridge where we apparently just find Oblivion's headquarters. I don't know, I kind of felt like a cosmic world-destroying entity doesn't just have a physical clubhouse you can walk into. Especially not one in the arse end of nowhere, but who am I to judge?
The sons of stone will fail. The child will die.
What the fuck?
Who are you?
We
Represent the lollipop guild, the lollipop guild, the lollipop guild.
From here, we start facing the forces of Oblivion itself, starting with these loudmouth priests. Oh, and we get the cerebral bore again. Started to notice here some pretty bad frame rate issues, and it's not just because of the emulation. Inconsistent frame rates were a problem raised at release, but it's most obvious here as the combat gets busiest. The Oblivion areas are a bit of a maze, going back to what Turok did best, as frustrating as it could sometimes be. I did need to reload the game once as I basically fucked myself. I'd walked onto this platform not knowing what it was and seeing no way of interacting with it, so I left to go find something else more useful. But by the time I'd circled all the way around again, the train cart where the platform had apparently been had left without me. What you were meant to do was step on, do absolutely nothing, until it eventually and extremely slowly starts to move. Fucking hell! By the way, since I've not mentioned it before now, it's not Darren Mitchell who composed this game anymore, but even so, I kinda like the new soundtrack. And oh look, the ugly kid.
There now, you're safe.
Danielle, stop!
Adon, what's the matter?
Get back!
What the fuck, Adon?
destroy the child.
Turns out that the child Josh told us to rescue was bait, meant to lure the last Turok directly to Oblivion, herself.
It's basically an intergalactic invasion into this space through people. I'm telling you, it's what all the ancients said, it's what they warned of, it's what we're dealing with. They're demons.
Look, I love Lovecraftian horror as much as the next guy, but for Oblivion itself, who's been built up over 2 games now, I was expecting something more regal? Maybe abstract? Something more than a 5-year-old's over-designed crayon drawing of a monster. For the battle itself, it's pretty straightforward. The biggest challenge is identifying the weak spot, and I'm still actually uncertain if it was the glowing club hand, the obvious initial choice, or the chest with exposed intestines, which ultimately seemed to be what finished the job with no more than a couple well-placed missiles. I don't know, it might have been both, the hitbox seemed a little bit wonky and oh! Lovely. Despite killing the goat blob thing, the essence of Oblivion worms away, forcing us to chase it down, killing some more rogue priests on the way.
We are the Pajama Club!
Eventually though, we find Joshua, alive and well.
Josh, how? The house, the explosion, the...
I'm alright. Everything's going to be fine now.
I saw you shot. I saw you fall.
None of that matters now.
These people are not frickin' humans, okay?
So, turning out that Joshua's possessed by Oblivion, we get a battle against the minigun-wielding former Turok, forcing the wormy boy out, who then just kind of wanders over to Danielle and Jacob for no particular reason.
Thank you, Turok. You have shown me the light. I peacefully surrender and vow never again to threaten the... Hold on, what are you doing with those Chinese takeaway boxes? You gonna get some food? What?
The child, it was a trap.
No, Danny. There is another child. Your child. The child is your child. Your child.
It happened just before Brian died.
Child.
He never knew we were going
But
after
the
him.
child, he will be child.
The child.
So that was Turok 3. And I didn't edit in this elevator music, this is the actual end credits. Honestly, I enjoyed it. There's no standout reason why this one was left out of PC ports. It does feel distinct from the previous two as a linear, story-focused and overall shorter experience, but it maintained the same gunplay and key-finding elements of the previous titles. In these ways, Turok 3 was an honestly fascinating experience for me, as the previously missing link between Turok 1 and 2, and the next main game in the series. But before that, we've got a post-credit scene.
Our decision is made, Speaker. Your place is here.
I can save him.
And serve what purpose? His death was ordained, as is your duty to this council.
If the council will not grant me this reprieve, then I have no choice but to defy its wishes.
Me?
Yes, council.
She grows more insolent by the day.
She loves him.
No matter. She's a danger to us all. Prepare yourself.
Of course, council.
This plot will never be continued. Aside from the main game itself, we once again get a deathmatch mode featuring all the enemies and NPCs from the game as player skins.
Stop attacking! He's a friend! My God, what are you doing? Stop immediately!
And yet another Game Boy tie-in, once again titled Shadows of Oblivion, with the same devs, same title screen, and same having fuck all to do with anything. Oh lovely, Dinosaurs. And look, more Dinosaurs. Seriously, I think they really liked this one Dinosaur sprite so much they insisted the player couldn't go more than 2 steps without seeing another one. Literally just lining up to get stabbed now. During E3 2001, Acclaim announced the 4th title in the mainline series, calling it Turok Evolution, but giving little more information besides promising vibrant natural locations, an epic war story, and plenty of prehistoric life, aiming to return the series to its dinosaur hunter roots. It's a good point actually, there was legit only 2 dinosaurs in the entirety of Turok 3, what the fuck. By E3 2002, Acclaim was touting the combat and stealth elements of this new game, its advanced artificial intelligence, squad dynamic system, and dubbed the September 1st release date as Turok Bloody Sunday. Classy. More than this though, as part of the game's marketing, they offered $10,000 saving bonds to the first US child born on release day whose parents legally named Turok. I thought Turok was a title, not a name. No, but seriously, what the fuck? Meanwhile, in the UK, the grand sum of 500 of our British pounds was promised to any 8 adults who changed their name to Turok for a year. Yeah, this is more of that unhinged marketing by Acclaim that I mentioned earlier. Far from limited to just Turok, by the way. Hey, got any recently deceased relatives? Slap an advertisement for Shadow Man's second coming onto their gravestone and win $100! Hey, to celebrate the release of Burnout 2 Point of Impact, we'll pay for any UK speeding tickets issued on the day of release. Incitement of dangerous driving? Is that even a legal definition? Well, maybe it should be! Back to E3, it was revealed that not simply a Turok 4, Evolution was actually to be a prequel, showing the origins of our boy Tal'Set. With one 2002 GameSpot article saying on this, perhaps the Star Wars series has brought the concept of prequels back into fashion. Of course, the regression in setting doesn't necessarily imply a regression in gameplay, quite the contrary. Turok Evolution is looking to be the most advanced of the series. Completing the series' transition to a more cinematic experience, we start the game with a lengthy title sequence. As mentioned, Darren Mitchell left the series after Seeds of Evil, but Evolution has returning composer Nelson Everhart from Shadows of Oblivion to give what is honestly a pretty good score in my personal opinion.
The Lost Land, a world born of chaos, an unholy offspring conceived during the death of a universe. This world has known nothing but suffering, death, and war, dealt out for centuries by an unending succession of madmen and tyrants. There are other worlds bound to the Lost Land, other peoples that have suffered as the people of my world have suffered.
We get a snippet of Tal'Set's origins on Earth in 1886, as his people are attacked by members of the US Army led by the infamous Captain Tobias Bruckner.
Howdy.
No, trust me, he's infamous for a reason. Not a good reason, but anyway, look, it's our boy, and Bruckner's dead. Well, good riddance to trash villains, and Wormhole.
You have died. Rest in peace, Chosen One.
Taken in by some villagers and revived by a hooded fella who tells him to send him on by his way once he's on his feet. One loading screen later, we're up, and that's some ugly ass face textures. Yeah, in many ways, Evolution is a step back visually, especially from Turok 3, which was pushing the N64 hardware, while this is lacking even compared to its own contemporaries. I am playing on the PS2, because that's the copy I've always had, but it does look admittedly marginally better on the Xbox and GameCube. On a brighter note though, literally, Evolution starts off right, with a welcoming, bright, lush jungle environment that harkens back to those dinosaur hunter days. They even make sure to toss the dinosaur in within the first 8 seconds. Thank you. Turning the first corner though, we sneak upon a not unfamiliar sight, as a reptilian trooper stands with his back to us and he's dead. Well, hopefully we haven't just started an interspecies conflict. Like Turok 3, we've got individual, pretty small levels, with none of the backtracking or extensive exploration of the older games. Key collecting and puzzles remain occasional objectives, as well as plenty platforming, though that's not without its own problems. Fuck! We're introduced to a few basic things here on the first level, such as Acclaim's groundbreaking creature AI, as well as an already impressive variety in creatures, absolutely all of which you can insta-kill by dropping trees on them. An important lesson. Once we have the key, we can move on to the next— Hey, what the fuck? On the ground, motherfucker! Hands when I can see them! Hey, I said on the ground! You're lucky I respect the Geneva Convention, which won't be adopted for another 43 years. Tal'Set's ahead of his time. The next level gives us raptors, more impressive AI, and with some minimal exploration, early access to the tech bow, one of the many returning weapons from the older games, with built-in scope, alternate arrows, and more of these guys? Fuck off. I'm just fucking with you. Get out of here, you wee scamp. Into the last level of this chapter, we're told to locate a pilot at the top of these cliffs, and are also dropped the name of the lizard boys we've been fighting. The Slag.
Total slag.
Yeah, okay. That aside, let's do a little bit of paleoanthropology to try and figure out what these are and how they relate to the previously established dinosaurs. Bearing in mind that there's bugger all established lore for these games. First off, the Slags are noticeably more militant than the intelligent but kind of brutish dinosaurs seen in Turok 2. You know, except of course,
Gant the Cold One!
Rank structure, weapon specializations, armor, communications equipment, and more that we've yet to see all paint the idea of a professional army here. It's a bit confusing. According to the game manual, dinosaurs are actually listed as a separate enemy in the game, specifically the flame troopers we'll see later, but the wiki, which should be mentioned as fan-made, lists these as sergeants based on game file data, and the Slags themselves as simply a dinosaur race. Ah! Monkeys! Anyway, where was I? Whatever, I'll finish my theory later. Wrapping up what's probably the largest, most Turok-feeling level in the entire game, we reach the cliff tops and swiggity swooty, check out that horrible texture quality. Chapter 2 puts us into the saddle of a Quetzalcoatlus, super flappy boy, as we're escorted to the magic hooded dude's place. While not the first vehicle section in the Turok game, these flying chapters are certainly unique, and on the whole, I kinda like them. Though this first is definitely the most enjoyable, with some beautiful, relatively speaking, environments and score, while lacking any of the major barriers later flight segments include. Aside from one open area over a slag camp and a boss battle against an enemy airship at the end, it's a pretty straightforward obstacle dodging affair. Also, pretty sure we passed through the junkyard area from Turok 3.
This place is a junkyard. Sometimes huge tears pull in massive parts of other worlds like this.
I kinda hope this was an intentional reference and I'm not just reading into it too much.
Welcome, Tal'Set. My servants are very protective. I assure you, you are in no danger.
Well, that was just weird. Will these porcupine gimps have any bearing on future events? They will not. Are they a reference to past or future games? Nope. Then what the fuck? The Seer Tarkeen tells Tal he's the prophesied son of stone, and must accept the mantle of Turok. Not that the name Turok's actually mentioned once, but whatever. Either way, Tallyboy refuses and only agrees to help the villagers who he learns are under attack.
You must stop them.
It is not my place to decide whether men live or die.
Damn you.
You passed the first test, warrior.
What? How? He turned you down, called you a cunt, and stormed off.
You
can't just pull a, "Ah, yes, you passed my test," in any old situation to make yourself sound all enigmatic.
All right, Gordon. Your suit should keep you comfortable through all this. The specimen will be delivered to you in a few moments. If you would be so good as to climb up and start the rotors, we can bring the anti-mass spectrometer to 80% and hold it there until the carrier arrives.
You passed the first test, warrior.
We'll overrun these pink insects and be feasting on them for years.
What?
We'll overrun these pink insects.
Yeah, the Slag voices are pretty bad. Sound quality in general is actually piss poor. Everything but the music is super compressed, at least on the PS2. It's kinda weird. Anyway, what was this guy saying? Something about Darth Tyrannus? Oh, they got Christopher Lee for this shit? Holy crap. Oh. And that was a death sound. It's around here you can really start to tell this is a different game from the others in the series. As snipers pin you in cover and enemies in general begin to get a bit more aggressive, it feels like a game built on a run and gun foundation where it expects you to keep moving and keep killing, but has these cover-based tactical shooter elements which really just tears the game apart. You can't take much damage, and while enemies do drop health and ammo, it's nowhere near to the extent of past games where you basically had to keep killing to stay alive. Admittedly, the PS2 does not control well, making matters worse without decent aim assist, but I'm unsure mouse and keyboard would necessarily fix the problem, which is only starting to show here. There's a chompy boy encounter towards the end just to mix things up, and another large area with some exploration, and the old Turok thing of hiding things over the side of cliffs. Oh, I missed that. But combat does continue to escalate, making it a constant requirement to go hunting after health packs after every engagement, and it gets a little tedious. Into some caves, we find a shotgun, our first viable close quarters weapon, and pick up an early missile launcher if we explore enough, whose reload sound I can still hear in my dreams. Oh, that compression. And with said launcher, we take on some Ankyloartillery! An Ankylosaur artillery! Now that's Turok. Unfortunately, we come to the next chapter, which I have to guess is entirely what Acclaim meant by developing the game around stealth and combat, as we're tasked with infiltrating a Slag stronghold to break out the village elder in what is ostensibly a stealth mission. Let's try, shall we? Oh, but before I do anything, I just gotta show this one little exploit I discovered when I was a kid. Just gotta squeeze. There we go. Now, aside from risking an eternity in the void, I'm not certain how much this brings to the table, but I know you can at least circumvent one or two of the security towers this way. The problem with this level is, this game doesn't do stealth. You've no bearing on where enemies are, the map, even with its sneaky entry points, does you no favours in avoiding patrols, and the second anyone glimpses you, it's high alert.
Alert! Alert! Attention! Alert status has been cancelled. Stand down.
There's some decent individual moments, like storming a barracks with a flamethrower, and the addition of the fun but highly impractical spider mine, a remote-controlled drone with bomb, poison gas, and voice lure modes.
This way!
Yeah, pretty sure that's against the Geneva Convention and all. Sorry, I'll go back to conventional weapons. So, regarding that advanced squad AI, I'm not really seeing it. At times, the AI almost impresses. They'll relocate to find cover, or try to anyway, after taking damage. They can flip desks to provide barricades, and different trooper types will act differently within the unit, with riflemen holding back while shock troopers charge in. It's just... everything comes with a bit of wonk. They're trying. The trend of being far too fragile for a Turok game continues.
You will be granted a quick death.
You passed the first test, warrior.
Unhelped by the painfully slow weapon switching, which, lacking any HUD like a weapon wheel, requires you to cycle through everything in your expansive loadout, one at a time, till you find the thing you need right fucking now. But it's the next chapter, within the Slag base itself, where things really start to fall apart for me, and where I had no reasonable option but to slap on invincibility in order to actually get through this game. Again, this feels like it needs the speed and runner-gunner qualities of the N64 games to really work. Instead, we've got Tal'Set on Xanax lazily shooting a bullet-spongy enemy who could easily kill us in a couple seconds flat if not for the cheat. Can you see why I just couldn't be doing with it? This level ain't my favourite. It's visually bland, corridor shooting, which as previously mentioned is a painful slog under normal conditions. We do fight ninjas at one point though. A lot of ninjas, who really like to combat roll. See, I think they look a lot cooler than they actually do. We blow up a reactor, get blarted down an exploding hallway, and then it's a prison break, as we come to the... gross. As we come to the cell of the village elder. Is that fucking Dumbledore? You never said we had wizards on our side. You know, fuck it, you guys can keep your lame ass ninjas.
Be quiet in there.
Sorry. At the end of an excessive combat section, we get an excessive arena combat section, with waves of troops flooding the area, as well as goddamn purlins. Well, these big boys have gone through a design change. A little less gorilla lizard, a bit more gorilla nightmare. We escort Albus out the base, get the fucking gravity gun, and make our way to freedom. Okay. To be honest, you're that clustered together, one or two rockets could probably take you all out. I kinda wanna do it just for the gibs, but it'd probably fry the console.
Well now, if this ain't a sight for sore eyes.
Oh no, not the racist cowboy guy. What? Who cares? Not us anyway. Or any of the 1,000 slags who just watch us lazily jog on over to a bald man in an escape craft.
Kill them!
Okay, what are those guys doing?
This ain't over, Savage. This ain't over!
Okay, I had actually rewatched this a couple times in editing, but that one slag legit just runs off the edge of the roof to his death. Squad Dynamic AI. We're taken to the ominous Shadowed Lands, which returns us once again to classic jungle environments and key collecting. Though technology is clearly advanced to where they can actually fill a map with foliage to give it that jungle look, lacking any interactable physics to push that shit out of your way as you wade through it, unfortunately leaves us with textures clipping through the screen forever, screwing with visibility. Combined with an annoying number of raptors, this makes for a bad time.
Silence!
We get ninjas, big birds, more ninjas, a pit of frogs.
Frogs!
There's one level with some creepy living statues that'll shank you the moment you pick up a key. Piss off, the bloody lot of you! Okay, genuinely curious, how do these react to poison? Oh. Overall, there's some good segments, bouncing between combat, with a large open lake area complete with underwater longboys, and more puzzle sections right out of Tomb Raider. After a collapsing bridge, we're rescued by our Flappy Boy, leading us right into another flight segment. More combat oriented than the first, you actually run the risk of dying via enemy fire rather than just cliff faces now. It's pretty short, but ends with a horrible arena area at the end, where you're expected to make leap of faith trench runs into a power generator, while the field of view makes it impossible to know if there's an entrance or not until you've already committed. It's pretty frustrating, especially knowing how easy it is to crash and be forced to start all over again. And it's these kind of additions to the flying levels that I really don't care for. Either way, we're apparently shot down off screen and land alongside our dead flapper onto a battlefield, thus beginning the largest single portion of the game. Apparently, while we've been dicking about in the jungle for no actual plot reason, the Slag army has launched a full blitzkrieg against humanity, aiming to take out the city of Galliana, which I think is important, but lacking any world building by the game itself. I don't fucking know. However, before then, the Slags need to capture another city, which they don't even bother to name. because again, world building. To be fair, this city's actually a pretty cool concept, being suspended across a giant canyon, making it the only access route to Galliana for hundreds of miles, making its strategic importance obvious. And in gameplay terms, this adds the important element of don't fucking fall! Storming the bridge with a few of the city's remaining defenders, we're treated to some heavy street combat. By which I really mean... yeah, once again, difficulty starts to become a big sticking point. Weapons like the homing plasma rifle help with some of the clusterfucks while compensating for the wonky controls, but for the most part combat is a lot of running backwards, cycling through weapons to get what you need, hoping you don't die. Hey, I'm down to 3 health and my weapon's out of ammo, and an enemy big boy has just turned the corner with a minigun. The next weapon I pull out is my only hope, and then... okay. Aesthetically though, I kinda like these levels. They capture surprisingly well the feeling of full-scale warfare on a level far beyond anything they've attempted before. One level has us tasked with hunting down snipers preventing our advance, and in a twist on the key collection mechanic we have to kill 10 of the sneaky bastards. Now admittedly this level is a bollock if you don't know what to expect, and I remember spending a lot of time stuck here on past playthroughs. Samey, maze-like interiors, stairwells and elevators, who can forget ladders? Really, really easily missed ladders. Thanks for wasting hours of my life, devs. We finish this chapter with a straight up arena battle. It's also here we get a sort of boss fight against basically our Styracosaur tank from Seeds of Evil. Of course, only after the boss fight and the bulk of the fighting, we get access to this game's one-use super weapon, the nuke. Unfortunately, it's a case of if you don't use it now, you never get another chance, since it disappears from your loadout after this level, so might as well just fire it randomly and oh, fuck! Neat. The next chapter takes us to the city sewers, where it's sort of a Bespin situation with pipes just leading out the underbelly into the void, so it makes for some perilous combat. Half expect to see a severed hand and a lightsaber come flying out one of these pipes. But no, just shit. Literal death by shit.
Oi, come here! I'ma get you with me span off, I'm dead.
Oh yeah. There's sort of this spiritual successor to the cerebral boar in Evolution called the Swarm Boar, a homing swarm of nanodrills which tears enemies apart from the inside. Not quite as cool, but lovely.
Find the Senate. Tell them we are lost. Please. They're in the Senate building.
Sent to rescue the Senate, there's a lot more street fighting, complete with tanks, purloons and paratroopers. Always aim for the balloons, by the way. All the while questioning how the fuck anyone could do this without cheats, we climb a gigantic monument to reach the Senate, where things continue to be more ridiculous amounts of battle till we reach the Senate chambers themselves. We get, at the final act of the battle, some actual context, as the senators mention Galliana, and decide that destroying the city by dropping it into the canyon below would halt the Slag advance.
If hundreds die so that hundreds of thousands might live, so be it. If Galliana falls, millions will follow.
And with that, we're sent out to find the control panel for the tethers suspending the city to release it. To be fair, there's some cool moments from here, like a purling gunship mini-boss duo. Have I talked enough about the wonky-ass Gibbs in this game, by the way? A Skytrain fight, and another arena area where we actually get our first canonical map of the Lost Lands. Huh. I don't know if you can tell, but these 3 chapters have kinda just been a continuous shoot stuff. But I'm trying to find more stuff to talk about. After some of the world's worst turret sections, we activate the tether control terminal and are given a less than comfortable 2 minutes to fight up a tower and reach an escape pod. Luckily, right where the escape pod was supposed to be, we find our Flappy Boy good as new, and there's a debris dodging flight sequence to escape. Oh wait, no, there's an escape sequence interrupted by a worse version of the trench running from earlier, where we have 6 power generators to destroy in the middle of a claustrophobic arena, complete with random escape pod collisions, and with 3 of the targets inside our rotating thing. It's awful. Eventually back on track, we escape via the city sewers as everything explodes behind us in typical Tal'Set style. Then we get a cutscene of the city's destruction, and my PS2 crashes. Okay, let's try again. think we can all agree that this conflict's getting a little out of hand. I'm sorry that I killed your mate on my first day in this world. I'm new around here, I didn't know what was what. But let's work together to de-escalate this before anyone takes it a little too far.
Those that would oppose us oppose our righteous cause. Those that oppose our cause oppose our rule. And those that oppose our rule die! We are the sacred blade.
Or straight to genocide, sure. As we approach the endgame, we're informed, via loading screen, that the Slegs are marching to Galliana with a new super weapon known as the Juggernaut. Well, surely it can't be that bad. Oh, well that is indeed a knot. A knot of the Juggerist variety, I'll give them that. There's some more ham-fisted stealth segments which don't work as stealth segments as we fight through the Juggernaut fortress built onto the back of this poor big boy, sabotaging the port and starboard cannons by disabling shields and lobbing a grenade into the— holy shit, can this fucking alarm shut up? I actually had to disable the sound effects for a while to get through this, and frame rate also tanked across this whole chapter. I'm not even sure if it's possible for a sound effect to do that, but I'll blame that on the fucking alarm too. Once both weapons are down, you can storm the bridge.
So, this is the mighty Tal'Set, the unstoppable.
Okay, seriously guy, do you need me to get you something for your throat? You know, at the very least you could cut back on smoking. Potentially interesting bit of dialogue here between Tarkeen and Tyrannus, suggesting some history between the two, and that Tyrannus too has an understanding of the more mystic and prophetic side of things in the world. Either way, just as it looks like we're about to get a boss fight. What? Where are you going? Get back here, shocker! Unfortunately, I've nothing else but speculation when it comes to Tyrannus. This is both the first and last time we see him in person, and we don't really know much else from him, from either in-game or external sources. But what we do know now is that the whole Slag campaign is a pseudo-religious one, believing themselves to be the chosen people destined to purify the lost land. So, basically Argonian Nazis. Which brings me back to my theory from earlier. Considering their morphological diversity, from far more slender and lizard-like to snake-faced and spiky devil dudes, I don't think the Slag are a race. Rather, it's a coalition of different dinosaurs under Tyrannus, and in a situation not unlike the Covenant from Halo, are unified by a religious militancy, with even a hierarchy or caste system based on the individual subspecies hinted at. We don't even know if Slag is what they actually call themselves, or it's just a pejorative the humans use. So either way, Dinosaur Nazis. Either way, with the Juggernaut down, we're back to the air to destroy its control room from the outside, and yet another pain-in-the-arse trench run sequence. All while receiving orders from some guy who's really out of breath.
You must try to destroy it. One of the Slags may still be able to communicate with their assault forces. We have not won yet.
Afterwards, it's a canyon run shortcut to Galliana in what is easily the worst flying section in the game. I really hate this part. Changing camera perspective helps, sometimes, but just fuck all this. We join the battle from the air, taking out ships and artillery, and again, I don't know what this place is. I assume Galliana is important. Adon always mentioned it with respect to the Lost Lands in general. Basically, it's where the goodies live, so I guess I gotta defend it. Maybe the creepy face people are here. Honestly, if that's the case, can I just let the Slags take it? On the whole, it's a pretty pitiful invasion force. I guess the Juggernaut really was the basket they put most of their eggs into. As always, super weapons are totally impractical. Not even once. With the battle now all but won, we join a bunch of raiding cosplayers to charge into a valley and take on the final few Slag troopers before a pre-boss fight purling. And then...
On your feet, savage! It's time to dance!
You know, I think Turok might actually have the worst T-Rex roar sound effect. Well, at least they didn't just steal the Jurassic Park one like most fuckers do, I'll give them that much credit. As the final boss, we get Bruckner, that also memorable and relevant character to the story, riding a war chompy. It's not the worst, and honestly, it's pretty easy if you just keep your distance, avoiding the flamethrowers and that deadly chomp. But, remember the lesson we learned all the way back on the first level? Just drop a couple fucking trees on him, and if you get the timing right, he goes down in a couple hits.
What are you waiting for? Do it!
You are finished, Red Snake. You do not deserve a warrior's death.
Your bones will turn to dust where you lay, forgotten.
And then he was completely forgotten. Okay, not entirely. Bruckner's impact as a shitty video game villain was so little that he ironically lived on through EGM's annual Tobias Bruckner Memorial Awards for the worst in a given year's gaming. So, I guess he got the last laugh after all. I mean, not really at all, but with Tyrannus left crying over his defeat in the Tower of Barad-dûr apparently, Tal'Set finally accepts the mantle of Turok.
I accept my destiny.
Your choice is made. I pray that the path you have chosen, the path of war, will not consume you.
And that was Turok Evolution. So, I mean, it's not good. A sequel was actually being planned, but following poor sales, mixed reception, and financial troubles in the years to come, it was cancelled. It's kind of a shame, honestly. Looking at it with this in mind, it's obvious that, like Oblivion and Turok 2, they were just setting things up in this game, Tyrannus for one thing, for the sequel. Meanwhile, building towards the introduction of the campaigner and potentially delving more into the now fractured Dinosaur forces, they actually had a decent world to build from here. But it was never meant to be, and as such we only have Evolution to look at on its own. Yet, despite many problems, like, you know, being a bad game, I kinda like it? Okay, I'm not gonna recommend it to anybody, and it's easily the worst of the main games so far, but I can enjoy it, even if nostalgia plays a part. Honestly, if this one got a PC port, it'd be an insta-buy. A higher resolution, decently textured version of the game with mouse and keyboard controls immediately fixes many of my issues with the game. Wait, hold on. They did port it to PC? Well, I gotta try this. Okay, it's bad. Released only in Europe, the PC version lacks cutscenes and music, has the compressed PS2 audio, and allows no button mapping, meaning that when the devs decided to make enter the pause button for some reason, you're stuck with it. So, an incomplete, buggy mess is the only PC version we have. Shame. Aside from the story mode, there's a hidden zoo level, allowing you to browse the many creatures of the game, and of course the by now standard multiplayer. I had a lot of fun with this as a kid. Minus the additional dogfighting, it has the same modes of the previous games, with a good selection of maps and even greater selection of characters. It's not without its buggy character models and general ugliness, but whatever. Aside from other secrets like the Big Heads mode, art gallery, and other cheats, I'm just going to mention the last of the secrets I know of. The menu screen hunter mode, where you can kill fucking everything like the evil bastard you are. Naturally, we once again got a Game Boy port. Only this time, not by bit managers. Does that mean we might get a game that actually follows the story? Like fuck we do, it's goddamn Metal Slug. As either Jun or Tal'Set, we fight some Colombian drug runners or whatever, and okay, I actually unironically like this. Everything else aside, the sprite work is beautiful, the gunplay is smooth and satisfying, something I ironically can't say with the main game, and Jun. I don't even know who Jun is, but Jun. In the years following Evolution, Acclaim would suffer continuous financial problems, leading to the eventual shutdown of, among others, the Austin studio in 2004, and the auctioning off of assets in 2005. Acclaim Entertainment was no more. Acclaim's comics properties returned to Valiant Entertainment, though the rights to the character of Turok in comics fell to Classic Media, now DreamWorks Classics, who'd go on to license Dark Horse Comics to reboot the series once again in 2012. There's a lot of licenses flying around all over the place, by the way, please forgive me if I get anything wrong. Not my area of expertise. However, before that, in 2008, Classic Media produced an animated film titled Turok, Son of Stone. Like the Dark Horse comics, this fell more in line with the original Turok stories, featuring Turok as a pre-colonial Native American warrior, as well as having Andar there. You know, there. With Turok being voiced by Adam Beach, known of course for his beloved role as Slipknot in the critically acclaimed Suicide Squad. The film honestly ain't bad. With some decent animation for a direct-to-DVD film, I'd say it's about as good as any decent TV series. Honestly, I thought the style was pretty similar to the DC animated shows. Even the bad guy's got the same cunt face as Lex Luthor, just with cheekbones. Not to get too off track for this gaming retrospective, during Acclaim's 2005 auction of assets, a startup game developer named Propaganda Games acquired the rights to Turok as a gaming property. Published by Disney of all things via its Touchstone Games label, in 2008, under a new studio and a new development team, we finally got nothing. Absolutely nothing. Definitely not a reboot. Ah, crap. Turok 2008 follows the story of Joseph Turok, a space marine who... Sorry, let me start again. Turok 2008 follows Joseph Turok, a space marine and a former member of Black Ops unit called Wolfpack, sent to hunt down his old boss, Kane, who's apparently turned traitor and holed up on some distant planet with a bunch of terrorists or something. So, yeah, when I say reboot, I'm talking about the hardest reboot a boot has ever read. From the Call of Duty opening flashbacks of Turok on some night raid on a Colombian cartel, oh shit, they're basing this off the Evolution Game Boy game, to the Aliens Colonial Marines spaceship sequence. Right off the bat, the game feels like it's trying to be anything but a Turok game. But, I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be bad, right? As long as we got some compelling story and characters.
Hey, who's the new guy? I like his hair.
Okay, well maybe the gameplay is good. Yeah, so because forced conflict, everybody hates Turok. But nobody not know how hates him more than Shaved Gimli, voiced by Ron Perlman. And you know it, because he'll take every opportunity to remind you that he just don't like the cut of your jib.
We may be stuck together, but that doesn't mean I have to like it. I could have taken you out and no one would have known. They'd have chalked it up to friendly fire.
And you come back alive and well. Isn't that perfect?
Look, I love Ron Perlman. He's a good voice actor. But Jesus Christ, does he not give a fuck?
Damn it, they're right on top of it.
Anyway, the ship gets shot out of orbit because countermeasures, what are those? And after a rush through the ship to surely reach some escape pods or something, we just walk out onto the planet's surface. Pretty sure we should have burnt up an atmosphere? Not to mention the Tungusian impact of crashing into the planet. No? Guess we're fine. Also dinosaurs, not that anyone cares. So after fighting off our first couple dinos, we quickly come up against the generic sci-fi soldiers that'll be our enemies for the majority of the game. And when I say generic sci-fi soldiers, I mean they go out of their way to be this fucking generic. Take the Hellghast, but remove all unique elements, World War iconography, and charm, and here you have the knockoff Evil Space Troopers version. Then it's not just that. We naturally will encounter different variations of these guys later, but while different designs are more than welcome, there's no through line, with the enemy forces being nothing but a mismatch of generic power armored guys, from ODST looking motherfuckers to literally just Doom Guy. To use my Hellghast example again, it's obvious from one hig to another that they're part of the same faction, with simple stuff like colour schemes, markings, pouch and armour placements, to angles and lines and the overall silhouette of the character model. You know, while we're on the subject, it's actually an issue I'm having with Disney's Star Wars these days, as more and more Stormtrooper types are included, which obviously stem from a different design template, but I digress. This enemy faction, whoever they are, have zero personality, and their designs play a huge part in it. To reuse an analogy from Dinosaur Hunter, it feels like something done in Gary's mod, only where Dino Hunter at least had crazy, colourful selection of NPCs, here we're using the blandest space trooper options possible. Lost in the jungle with Slade, Ron Perlman's character, because you know how much chemistry those two have together.
Looks like the bridge is out. It's like a dino farm down there.
We get a little bit more dinosaur combat with some hide and seek against that big chompy boy. Sounds more fun than it actually is, with Turok insisting on falling on his arse anytime something breathes too close to him. Yes, I noticed, thank you Ron. Seriously, this game has a fucking obsession with its knockdown mechanic. And I hate it! I fucking hate it! You escape the Giga only to go through some caves where you get knocked down some more. A lot. Constantly. and then it's back up to the surface where, yeah, you get where this is going. If nothing else, this game does a fantastic job of completely exhausting your patience with one type of enemy before passing you off onto the other long enough to become fucking sick of them and all. Exactly. Speaking of which, after grouping up with some albino sniper guy, don't worry, that's all the characterization you need to worry about, we come across another group of soldiers. But not before being reminded that Slade doesn't trust you because you done work for the bad guy. What, who, we're here for.
Looking forward to stabbing people in the back, just like Cain taught you.
Turok, the next step in your training is to bully this bald guy with me.
Oh, come on, guys, quit it, stop it, I'm telling Mum.
The gunplay in this game is pretty fucking painful. Weapon recoil is jerky as hell, and receiving any fire completely messes your aim, making for some infuriating situations where we gotta snipe this guy on a turret, but the guy on the turret won't stop fucking shooting. We don't deal with health packs anymore, opting for regenerating health, but you've got piss-all durability and die after a handful of shots. But don't worry about it, you'll be blind and totally incapable of defending yourself anyway, long before you actually die.
Buster!
No!
Sniper got Buster, man!
Not
I'm gonna kill that son of a
Buster!
bitch!
Once again, after completely burning me out in generic soldier warfare, we wander into a nest of surprisingly cute baby chompies, which we proceed to massacre. Alright, let me just give this game its one and only positive now, and that's the dinosaurs. They're actually pretty good. You know, removed from the gameplay they're involved in. The models, textures, animations, everything are actually great. I can even say that for a long time they were some of the best we'd gotten out of a video game, and still hold up decently today. As Mama Chompy shows up for a boss fight, the scale and intimidation factor of them really shines through as well. Right up until a quick time event takes us completely out of it, but whatever. As night falls, we take a shortcut through some abandoned bunker to rendezvous with our boring allies, taking on a bunch of albino raptors in the process. What? Where the fuck did you come from? Literally out of nowhere.
And you come back alive and well. Isn't that perfect? First you turn your back on my brother, and now my best friend? Get off me! I'm not afraid of him. I'm not afraid of you. This ain't over, Turok.
I'm seriously wondering what Ron's direction for this character was. Alright, Mr. Perlman, you're gonna be playing this character's Slade. All you gotta remember is, you're really angry all the time, but also kinda sleepy. Not afraid of you, Turok. I'm not afraid of you. We get attacked by a bunch of troopers, and it's also here where Doom Guy shows up. It's also right about now that— a motherfucking spider tank! A spider tank! God, I miss Thunder. Listen, I appreciate a spider tank as much as anyone, but in a franchise like Turok, can you get any more boring near-future science fiction? Now, slap some spider legs onto a Parasaurolophus, now we're Turok. After that, we fall into a cavern and fight some scorpions with a flamethrower. This leads me to another problem, and that's how boring the game's weapons are. Aside from the bow, which is probably a legal requirement for the character or something, you've got, what, SMGs, a shotgun, dual-wield SMGs, a plasma rifle that just functions the same as an SMG but blue, silenced SMGs, crash minigun and an RPG. After bursting some bugs, we get a God of War boss battle. Then back to the surface for some more awful trooper shooting. Seriously, the minigun is trash.
Eat this, you son of a bitch!
Oh no, not. Anyway, we meet up with our boring allies again, fight some more raptors, and then we get the jaw-dropping reveal that the bad guy is actually a super-duper bad guy who's secretly developing chemical weapons. Sorry, these ragdoll physics are kind of funny. But yeah, it turns out that the ultimate bad guy plot of the game is that they've made a nerve gas from the scorpion bugs. That's it. What an abysmal use of the Turok setting. Like, even forgetting the, for all its flaws, infinitely more interesting world and lore of the older games, you've got yourself here, a terraformed planet full of fucking re-evolved dinosaurs, not to go into how fucking stupid that is, like you could replicate Earth's immensely complex evolutionary history to the point of duplicating identical species, purely as an accidental byproduct of terraforming, just fuck off. But with this whole dinosaur planet and all you could do with it, you go for the most boring Call of Duty Black Ops plotline possible. The fact dinosaurs exist doesn't even matter to this storyline. The fucking scorpions that appeared in one level are more integral. Fuck it, everything starts going volcanic because dinosaurs, of course it would, and it turns out that this game actually has some pretty good gibs.
We can get into the base room, great. I'm not even seeing any troops. Wait, I've got one.
Oh no, not! Anyway. More terrible shooting because no fun allowed, and it's a straight run through Mama Chompy returning for vengeance from earlier into the enemy base.
Let's do the thing where you quietly kill everyone and I watch.
Looks like we have to do it the hard way.
We're tasked with destroying the base's reactor because what else would we destroy, and are sent into a chamber filling with bees! It's shoved into our faces that this is a really good time to use the minigun, here have some ammo, but the fact is the minigun's trash, literally anything else is more effective. Either way, you and your allies finally get to a ship.
I'm staying. I have to stop Kane. I can't let him get away.
I don't care. And now, and for the final time, a terrible shooting segment. It's just not fun. There is nothing enjoyable about this gameplay. I just hope it looks as bad watching as it actually feels to play. Eventually we get to the landing pad, shoot down Kane's ship with a missile turret, don't move out the fucking way, and then we get a melodramatic confrontation.
I have brought peace, freedom, justice, and security to my new empire.
Your new empire?
Don't make me kill you.
Anakin, my allegiance is to the Republic, to democracy!
The fight itself is entirely quick time, and as funny as it would be to do the whole deliberately fail cut to credits thing, I don't want to replay any of this shit more than I have to. It doesn't help that the music is really nothing for what's supposed to be such an intense battle. Maybe we can fix it. That's more like it. We kill the baddie in the most anticlimactic way, and then because the game remembers it has dinosaurs, we get Mama Chompy back for the actual final boss of the game. And sure, why not? She has more character than anyone else in the plot. This one's actually pretty challenging, and it took me a few deaths to finally find the locations of all the weapons and ammo scattered around the area, forcing you to bolt from cover to cover with this thing right on your tail. Of course it still suffers from the goddamn knockbacks, but on the whole, it's probably the best part of the entire level, I guess. You don't deserve a moment that awesome. Fuck off.
What? You really thought we'd leave you?
Well, apparently you did, because you're clearly in space right now. They leave the planet, Ron and Turok kiss, and we cut to credits. The end. Propaganda made one more game, then shut down in 2011. Turok 08 is pretty terrible. Between the nothing story, the soulless sci-fi setting, and the painful gameplay, it's easily the worst of the lot. I'd say I can understand somebody liking it, but nope, sorry. As it turns out, a sequel was in the works, with only a pre-rendered announcement trailer and poster seeing the light of day before being cancelled. And with Propaganda's closure, the Turok gaming license kind of fell into the void for a while as far as I can tell. Unfortunately, Turok 2008 was the last we'd see of the series. Starting high, we saw the franchise go from over-the-top campy sci-fi action to an increasingly serious and more cinematic tone. The games had become far more linear to fit their narrative, while still mostly failing to actually deliver a narrative, let's be real. And if we include 08 in the discussion, we end actually where we'd expect to on this trend, with a cutscene heavy, linear corridor shooter, where the running and gunning has been completely abandoned for the cover shooting of every military shooter of the day. It's kind of a shame after all this to leave on such a low note, but what can you do? It's not like somebody made another Turok game unannounced out of the blue just as I was writing this retrospective. So, in a twist of fate, 2019 has seen the release of a new Turok video game. Saying that, it's definitely different. Turok: Escape from Lost Valley is an isometric action-adventure by Pillow Pig Games, and published by Universal Studios I don't know what the fuck's happening with the license anymore. Clearly influenced by the original Turok comics, it follows Turok and Andar on their quest through Lost Valley, trying to find a way out of the danger-filled prehistoric land, with a colourful, almost CalArt style. Now, I'm not doing an entire playthrough, mostly because that moon lizard was a fucking pain in the ass, but I figured it was worth bringing up, and it's honestly not a bad game. I have to wonder if the mixed reviews it's getting on Steam are because of things like enemy hitbox issues, or the occasional clipping glitch, or if it's just people salty that it isn't another shooter like the old games. But I think it's okay. A bit gimmicky, and I appreciated the unexpected cutesiness for a while, but not likely to play it again. If nothing else though, Escape from Lost Valley highlights the life still present in the Turok label. From the simple premise of Native American versus dinosaurs, we've had interpretations ranging from Space Marine shooter to dimensional hopping silliness. We've gotten arena death matches and cuddly adventure games. Now, I won't hide my preference and bias for the more Acclaim era of games, with the return to that world and exploration of its universe, but I can admit that there's other ways to interpret the franchise, preferably not with Space Marines, and I'd be pretty interested to see what new minds and new creative teams could create around the character. Will we ever see more Turok games though? It's hard to say right now. After Evolution and 2008, it might seem like a bit of a cursed property. But assuming the sales of the Switch ports raise enough interest and maybe help push for porting or remastering the other games, Shadows of Oblivion and maybe in some universe Evolution, who knows? But even if we never actually see another game in this strange, decades-long comic, animation, gaming, nearly live-action film produced by Hayden Christensen, this is not a joke, franchise, I'd say it still had a hell of a run. Fucking hell, why do I talk so much? Awards time! Come on, how could I not call it that? Though ironically enough, it ain't going to who you thought. Kane from Turok 2008. You got nothing, dude. Bruckner was a racist southern cyber cowboy who rode into the final battle on a weaponized chompy boy. Not to mention he joined up with a race of genocidal lizards and rose to the rank of general in a war against his own species just to get to the one native who bonked him off a ledge. As stupid and ultimately underwhelming as he was, what did Kane have? A knife fight? Oh, and the ultimate plan to, what, make nerve gas? I mean, you know that already exists, dude. Oh, but it's really good nerve gas. Worth terraforming an entire planet for? Come the fuck on. I think Turok 2 and technically 3's cerebral bore just ticks so many boxes that it has to get this spot. Creative and original, always fun to use, unapologetically inefficient, and beautifully gory. Wow, oh wait, get something! Surprise! Yeah, I guess they have the actual benefit of technology, but as I said before, they're still pretty impressive even now, and actually stand out from the game they're stuck in. I still hate fighting them, but they're good. Okay, they're good. When we say best Turok, we don't mean game, we mean best individual to wear the title. So right off the bat, fuck outta here Joseph Turok, what the fuck? It really ought to be our boy Tal. I mean, he was the first, the OG, sparked a race war that killed millions, but screw it, Danielle wins. She actually has character, and facial animations. You just can't compete, Tal, with your grimace and textureless mush. I'm really torn here. Honestly, I could justify Dinosaur Hunter, Seeds of Evil, and Shadows of Oblivion all as the best Turok game. I love the simplicity and simple fun of the original, and its environments and tone. Turok 2 just polishes up so much from 1 and is a far more fleshed out game, and 3 was just a total surprise for me. Fuck it, Evolution wins, screw you. And with that, we're done. Thanks as always for watching. This took a lot of time to get done, and I had to put basically everything else on hold to prioritize this video, so I hope it was worth it. By the way, I have a Patreon now. Well, actually, I've had it for months. I've just never once advertised it because I don't want to take people's money and disappoint them with my content, or lack of content. But some people have asked about it, and if you would like to contribute to the channel, it'd be appreciated. This is always a lot of work, but it is something I enjoy first and foremost as a hobby, not a job. But even so, the Patreon is there as an option for anyone who would care to. Anyway, I am very done, and I need sleep. Bye just now.
Avon, no! What are you doing?
I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm kind of retarded.